my dad has a incredible story, but it starts off as a fairly tragic story. He had a really pretty terrible childhood. He never knew his father. His mother was an alcoholic. He grew up primarily in public housing, he grew up in Atlanta, literally in the slums of Atlanta, moving from place to place. He ultimately ended up in the foster care system in here in Georgia, and lived in a couple of different group homes and through some different kind of foster families, eventually ending with a foster family that took him in as a teenager and became the people that as I grew up, I considered to be my grandparents, and really changed the arc of his life and therefore my life and our whole family. But kind of coming out of that background, as a kid, a poor kid in the slums of the city back in the 50s and 60s, arguably not the very bottom of the kind of social ladder, but he was pretty close down there. And so he really developed, coming out of that background, a great belief that that there should be no class system, that one person is every much as valuable and worthy of a person as anyone else. As someone who has been on the bottom rung of that came up, and so that focus and the belief of and the value of people really drives who he is, and that was a value, if you will, that was very, very instilled in me and my brother and sister. And he is the most giving person I know. That's very much a part of his life. When you're starting a company, like, you're just trying to figure out how to make payroll, and how to go get that first customer, and and all that sort of thing. And but we, kind of got on some pretty good strategy and took off pretty quickly. And we're just running and going, and and then in the meantime, we started in 2000, and starting, I think, right, 2003, 2004, 2005, we started getting these awards for, like, being a great place to work, and people talking about our culture and all this. And to be honest, we didn't know why. It was like, yeah, I mean, we got it's a good place, and I mean, I think we've just been able to get a lot of good people up here, and and that sort of thing. And even further, my dad came from the belief and that because people are kind of worthy as who they are, that he never really talked about his values, because he didn't want to impose them on someone else. He was, kind of came from a little bit of a live and let live, like, hey, I want you to be able to show up as who you are, and I'm not going to, kind of tell you what I believe so that you think that you have to change to, whatever. He's like, and so my dad was very, very private about some of those things, and a lot of the things that he would do. He, tolerance is a big value for him. And so we were just kind of running the company and winning these awards for culture, and just kind of didn't really know why, and really kind of we're just kind of letting it happen. Well, so in around 2008, I think it was 2007, something like that. We had a professor from a business school here in Atlanta that was doing a study on the alignment of companies with strong corporate cultures and financial outperformance. And he was trying to, basically, this is pretty known now, but back then it was still something I guess you had to research, of saying, companies with really strong cultures outperform other companies, financially and shareholder growth and market share and all that sort of thing. And so he came in and he interviewed 100 people. It was like a third of the people. Came to interview a whole lot of people, and he asked them to describe the culture and describe the values in our culture. What was interesting is when he came back with his report, he said, I interviewed 100 people, and almost all of them used the same words. Now, we didn't talk about it. I mean, like purposely so, because my dad was even like, no, this is not something that you talk about. But they all used the same words. And what I learned at that time was people know your values. They know what you believe, even if you don't state them. And the reason they know them is because those principles that really drive you, they show up in your decisions, they show up in your actions. And if you're around someone long enough and you see what they do, you can say, I know what is actually really driving this person. And so kind of during this time, we said, if people know this, then maybe this can kind of give us permission to be to be a little more forward about it.